Right, so here we are getting to the end, and for me this is the most difficult part, only in as much as you're working with a smaller area to weave in and out of. So it just takes a little bit more finger work, that's all. And you will see at this point why I've encouraged you to compact the rows, to just push them upward a little, because just as with the beginning you want to cover those loops, we also want to cover these. So I'm just going to work my way along. You can see there's a smaller area, and with anything, if you're working in a smaller area, it is going to be a bit more difficult. In the example that I showed you earlier, how to warp, you'll recall that I used t-shirt loops. On this particular one, I've made a yarn and I've wrapped it over and over and over and over. In order to get that yarn to join at the ends, because it's not a loop, I've had to tie a knot. This piece here has had a small knot tied in it about there. It's formed a loop, and you will have one loop there and one at the beginning. You can't see the knot there, it's covered just as the knot here is covered. It's just a very simple secure knot that you tie that will give you a loop about that long. But you treat it as one warp thread until you get to the end, and then I'll show you what we do. So we've reached the end of the row. Tuck that yarn under. I'm sorry, the row is going to take longer because I'm having to work harder to pull them through. If you need to rush off and get a glass of water, then there's time for you to do so. You won't miss very much.
So could you, if you wanted to, just cut the warp at that point and tie a knot in them?
Yes, you would tie a couple of knots, and that would leave you with a fringe, which is what the Salish used to do, and which a lot of weaving involves. But as I explained earlier, I particularly like the looped finish. I'm not that keen on fringes.
Well, and you're using an ugly t-shirt fabric, which doesn't make an attractive fringe.
No, quite. Now, David, whilst something's just occurred to me, when I asked you to design this frame, this loom, I asked you to put this cross member, the cross piece, let me move that so it can be seen, behind the frame itself, so it is actually proud. And the reason I've done that is, if this frame were lower down, you would see that if it wasn't set behind, I'm sure you can say this better than me, although I managed to say it to you in the beginning, my hands would be knocking against the easel.
Okay.
And that's the reason for it. But now for the moment of truth. I'm actually going to take it off. You can see there's a gap in there. I could get another row, but I'm going to show you how to take it off and weave in one by hand. If you've got arthritic fingers, you might find that just a little bit too close. So just take out the top dowel.
And that's it, you just pull the dowel out.
That's it. In fact, I didn't need to take the dowel out. I could have just pulled it off. So there, can you see that?
Okay.
You see the size of those loops? There's room to get one more row in there to finish it. And already the top row is sliding into place. It's moving up because I put plenty of tension in there, compacted it. It's actually sliding up to cover the loops. Can you see that okay?
So all we'll see at the end is just a tiny little bit of the grey warp.
That's right.
On the edge.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I'm going to lay this down on the floor and just thread in one more. So the same process, leading hand twines second yarn goes under the first one, leading hand twines, and that one goes under, and you've got the previous rows to guide you. You can see I've given myself a little bit more room now, and it's just that little bit more comfortable. So simply do that all the way along, and you can splice in still at this late stage. So that one goes under because the previous one went over. Again, I'm just holding on to it so that it doesn't pull tight and give me a warped edge. Excuse the pun. A variable edge. I'm going to splice in a little bit more. In actual fact, I did this one in a solid colour of that, so I want another piece of that colour. Of course, my price of $1 or $2 to make this was based on the fact that we went to the Salvation Army and bought a bag full of sheets.
Well, I suppose you wouldn't want to go along and buy to the store and buy a brand new set of sheets.
No.
Just to rip them into shreds.
Yes, some people may have a stock of sheets already at home.
Do you have to use sheets, or can you use other fabrics?
You can use any fabric that you like. In fact, we've got a bag full. Remember those hats we used to make with those gorgeous furnishing fabrics?
Yeah.
We've got a bag of those, and I've got a plan. I've got a design in mind.
Oh no.
Yes, to make a really gorgeous rug. I mean, these are very serviceable. They're very bright. They add a spot of colour to an otherwise quite plain area. Now I've got a bit of a splice there, so I'm just going to tuck him in there.
So even though the fabrics are torn, they don't actually fray once they're turned into a rug, is that right?
Yes, that's right.
I can see by the rug that you're kneeling on, which was, I don't know if that was the very first one you made, was it?
It was, yes. And
I don't see any loose threads on that.
well, no, after you've used it a little while, any loose threads get worked in or pulled off. And you can let the fabric fold or roll as you use it. You don't have to worry about keeping it flat. But if there's a particular piece of colour you want to expose, say like when I was doing that, I would try and get that red to be seen. So you just twist it. And here we are with this loop. That's really one strand, but I'm going to go into it as it's the very last one, and it will hold it secure. So I've twined, take it over, bring it through, and then these ends will be finished off. You'll poke those two, just weave them in a little bit. You can weave them into the back, just like any knitted garment.
Can you show us how to do that?
No.
No.
No, because yes, I can. I hate finishing off. You know that. Fancy asking me to do that. I would just leave it. Alright, so I've just selected one there, tucked it through, pulled it, and then I can select the next one along and tuck it in. Usually I select the same colour so that it can't be seen. It doesn't spoil the sequence of colours that I've got going. So that one I'll need to trim that off. There's that bit of grey, got to work it in. But what I want to show you, more importantly than trimming and weaving those ends in, is how you pull it to cover the warp.
Right, the warp has just about disappeared.
Yes, I'll do it here. Is the camera focused on here? Can you see this taking place?
Okay.
Right. So, just do this. Pull it about a bit. And you see that warp disappearing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've made this compact enough when you started off, you can make it disappear altogether. It'll just be a slightly different colour running along the edge there. But what you see on the top is the colour you wanted. And in fact here I didn't add the second strand of purple soon enough.
So you're just going to undo that bit and
I will
do that again.
Because I want to see it like that.
Well, that took about an hour all told, I think,
Yes.
to make that one mat.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple of hours should see a rug the size of the one you're kneeling on.
Oh yes, I'm sure that I probably made that in a couple of hours, not solidly. You know, I did a few minutes here, a few minutes there, and that's the beauty of it.
Wow.
So I hope you've enjoyed it.
And that's barefoot weaving.
That's barefoot weaving. And this is Lynne Milsom from Fibre Arts Bootcamp saying I hope you enjoy it as much as I do.